Hi everyone! Happy Halloween! So today I wanted to share a special gaming vlog that I filmed a few weekends back. I always get excited when this time of year comes around because Halloween in America is so much fun. Ever since I moved here, I've wanted to soak it in as much as I could because I will be moving back to Australia at some point, and springtime Halloweens have a very different kind of vibe. No pumpkins or crunchy leaves, and of course, 70% of the population insist it's unpatriotic. So you know, call me a tourist, but I really enjoy watching the true, uninhibited excitement of a Halloween in America. I think it can be really fun to play games that match the feeling of a season, which I'm sure is no secret if you've seen some of my other videos. So that's what I've been doing lately. In this video, I'll be sharing a few of those games, as well as some other festivities and things that I find pretty. So without further ado, I present to you a very magical and gaming-filled weekend in October. Good morning and happy Saturday! So the first thing on the agenda today is to continue playing a very special witchy game that I've been enjoying lately. And that is Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon. This is a game that I watched my friend Jay play on stream last year, and ever since then I've been really wanting to pick it up for myself. I thought it would be perfect for this time of year because it's about magic and witches and just has a really whimsical and cozy atmosphere. So yeah, I'm really excited to continue it. So I'm playing Cereza as someone who doesn't have any prior experience with the Bayonetta series, though I would like to play it sometime. Although both are action-adventure games, Cereza is stylistically very different. It has a really strong storybook aesthetic that is a little different from what you usually see. It tells the story of a young Bayonetta, or Cereza, who is currently undergoing training to become an umbral witch. And it's actually a very interesting backstory as to how she got here. Her parents had a forbidden relationship. Her father was a sage and her mother was a witch. As a punishment for having a child, her mother's clan imprisoned her, and Cereza was outcast from the village. She was taken in by a woman named Morgana, who took pity on her and decided to become her mentor in the umbral arts. But Cereza's been having a recurring dream where this mysterious person is telling her that the key to saving her mother lies in the dark woods of Avalon Forest, a place that is overrun by dangerous fairies. She ignores Morgana's warnings and decides to sneak out one night to go into the forest, and that sets the stage for where the game begins. I think there's something really special about this game. It has such a strong identity, and from the moment you start playing, that is very apparent. The story is told through dialogue and narration, and I think the voice work here serves as a really beautiful foundation for that warm, storybook atmosphere. Sometimes the narrator will even come in when you're controlling Cereza outside of cutscenes, so it really does feel like you're in the middle of a living fairy tale. Combat is really interesting in this one because you're actually controlling two different characters at the same time. The left Joy-Con is for Cereza, and the right is for her demon familiar, which has possessed her stuffed cat Cheshire. They need to work together to make it through the forest. Cereza has her magical spells, and Cheshire has his brute strength. Going through the forest can feel kind of like an asymmetric co-op puzzle, except that you're controlling all the characters. Technically, I guess you could play it co-op, and I bet that would be a lot of fun too. But solo, it's a very interesting experience. It can take a minute to get used to the controls, especially during combat. It actually feels very similar to the original version of The World Ends With You. There's a lot of stuff to coordinate and keep track of. I usually have a hard time dividing my attention, but so far I'm faring okay. There are also these things you find throughout the forest called Tiernonogs that remind me a lot of the shrines in Breath of the Wild. They're areas you go into where you'll have to solve some sort of puzzle or combat trial and be rewarded with a heart piece, essentially. I think the exploration in this game is really nice. There haven't been too many major branching paths yet, but I have found a lot of chests and things tucked away, and that's always very exciting. So yeah, so far the game has been a very magical experience, and I think it deserves more attention. It's very special. Later that afternoon, we had some errands to go run. Tony and I have recently gotten really into Magic the Gathering, so we decided to build some Halloween-themed commander decks. We had some cards to pick up at this board game store, and of course, we always like to browse and see what's new. While we were out, we also stopped by this little retro game store. I've been really interested in the Game Boy Advance lately, so that's where I was narrowing my attention. I was excited to see a boxed copy of Battle Network 2, although it was pretty expensive. Luckily, I was able to find a much cheaper copy a few months ago. I wasn't looking to buy anything big that day, so I just walked away with one game, which was Frogger's Adventures. It was only $5, and I'd been wanting to try it out for a while, so it seemed like a good time to get it. And then on the way home, we stopped by Joann Fabrics to look at the Halloween decorations. It was a fun afternoon. So later that night, we decided to try out our new Magic decks. Tony built a Zula Doc Eldrazi deck, and I put together one for Agatha of the Vile Cauldron. I'll try not to ramble too much for those of you who don't play Magic, but basically Agatha is a commander that you want to make really strong so that you can play powerful abilities on your other creatures for a reduced mana cost. But I wanted to do something weird with my build and add a food token angle. I know red-green decks aren't necessarily conducive for that, but I thought it would be really cool to have some cards that utilize food tokens so that I could use Halloween candy as token proxies. I also really wanted to add some of the Halloween cards, like Jack-o'-lantern and Skullmead Cauldron. I've definitely sacrificed a bit of synergy for the sake of the theme I'm going for, but overall I'm happy with how things turned out. And I was able to pull off some cool combos. I'm also really excited about the sleeve color I chose. These are matte dragon shields, which are always my go-to, and I got them in purple. I wanted to get something that would complement the Halloween theme, and I think the color actually works quite nicely with a lot of the cards in the deck. So, go first for that, and then when he enters the battlefield, I get a food token. Like I mentioned, I've been very into the Game Boy Advance lately, so on Sunday, I thought it sounded like a lovely idea to spend the morning playing Sabrina the Teenage Witch Potion Commotion. This might seem like a pretty random game for me, but I actually really love Sabrina the Teenage Witch. When I was growing up, I used to watch the early seasons on video all the time. It's definitely a comfort show for me, and I still really enjoy watching it. So when I found this game at our local store a few weeks ago, naturally I was very interested. I never expect much from licensed games, and honestly I was going into this more out of curiosity, but I actually ended up really enjoying it. It's a puzzle platformer with 4 main areas inspired by locations in the show, which are Sabrina's house, Westbridge High, the Slicery, and what I'm assuming is supposed to be the Beanstalk from Season 2. In each level within these areas, you'll be searching for potion ingredients and magic book pages. For every 3 pages Sabrina finds, she unlocks a new spell, which is then incorporated into the puzzle design for future levels. For the most part, the game is pretty easy, but still has a slight challenge in the puzzles that keep it engaging. I think what really makes the game work is that it has very tight controls. I didn't have any frustrating moments where things weren't responding the way I wanted or anything like that. It was just very clean platforming. I really liked how in the last level you need to use all of the magic you've learned throughout the game. The design in this one especially was very non-linear, and it actually took me a while to figure out how to clear it. It would have been nice to play more levels that have a more complex design like that. There are some other less impressive things scattered in there, like random screen push stages and simple memory games, but yeah, overall I found the game to be an enjoyable experience. Okay, so this Sabrina game was surprisingly really fun. I think with older platformers, and especially licensed ones, I always expect them to be a little janky, but this one controls well. In my opinion, it's actually a pretty decent game. It's only a couple hours long, but very satisfying, and I think I will definitely be replaying it in the future. So as I continued with my Sabrina marathon, I decided to get a start on this year's pumpkin carving festivities. Okay, so in honor of the fact that I'm currently playing Cereza, we're going to be attempting to carve Cheshire. I'm going to be using the cover art here to draft up the design. Something tells me this is going to end terribly, but I'm going to give it my best shot.
Her mother passed each grueling day barely able to so much as move in her cold cell. But when her daughter came to visit, the witch always showed her a loving smile. On the night of the girl's 10th birthday, her mother was to be moved to a deeper cell, where even the faintest memory of daylight could not reach her. More alone than ever before, the young girl clung to all she had left, a stuffed cat named Cheshire, which her mother had made for her long ago.
Okay, so here is the finished pumpkin. Pretty happy with how it turned out. It's a little wonky, but it gets the job done. So I think before dinner I might play a little more Cereza, and then I have another Game Boy Advance game that I think is going to be really fun. Okay, so to end this weekend on a perfectly thematic note, I decided to play Spirits and Spells on the Game Boy Advance. If you're from Europe, you might know this game as Castleween. It's actually a reimagined version of a PS2 and GameCube title. I haven't played either of those, but from what I've seen, it looks like a completely different game. The original is a full-on 3D platformer, whereas this GBA version is a 2D side-scroller. It's about a brother and sister who go out trick-or-treating one Halloween night when suddenly all their friends are attacked by the boogeyman and have their souls stolen. So the siblings decide to venture into the night to save them, fighting all sorts of ghouls and monsters on their way. So yeah, this is very much a Halloween game, complete with pumpkins that increase your life and sweets that you can collect for higher scores. One cool thing about it is that you get to control both of the siblings. There are checkpoints throughout each level where you can swap between them, and because they each play very differently, this is essential for being able to clear each level. The girl is dressed as a witch, so she is able to float through the air using her hat, and once you store up enough sparks, she can also do a ranged attack. The brother is in a devil costume, and he can do a double jump, so he's able to reach higher places than her, but he does suffer fall damage. A cool little tidbit I found out is that because the siblings have these disguises, they're able to sneak past any enemies they're dressed as, so they can use that to their advantage as well. Now this game I actually did find pretty challenging. They've designed it in a way such that if you want to clear a level, you're most likely going to have to replay it a few times until you learn all of its tricks. The game really tries to spring surprises on you, like ghosts you can hardly see, and traps that are sure to get you if you're moving through too fast. It's important to play cautiously, learn the dance, and move through with precision and intention. It can definitely be frustrating at times, but I'm still having fun with it. So that is the end of this October weekend vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. I really love celebrating holidays with thematic games, and the ones I shared with you in this video were all exactly what I was looking for. If you have any games that you like to play around this time of year, I'd love to hear about them. But that's all for now. I hope you have a lovely day, and Happy Halloween!